The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. This is program number 852. Coming to you on Monday, the 16th of January, 2017. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, Consider Making a Will. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. Well, condolences go out from me to all those families which have suffered recent bereavements. And there is one family in particular that I have in mind in a very special way. Now, for the last couple of years, from time to time, you have heard me sending out get well greetings to Deaconess Althea Peters, affectionately known as Nan, a member of my church. In fact, I sent greetings to her as recently as last week, Monday's program. Sadly, Nan passed away on Wednesday, the 11th of January. But she was prepared for her passing. As a committed Christian for several years, in fact a deaconess in our faith, she knew what it was to give her life to Christ, and she had done so. And over the period of her illness, in and out of hospital, she had prepared herself for the end. She will be laid to rest next Sunday, coming the 22nd of January, at St. Elizabeth Cathedral at Belmont, where we'll be having the homegoing service for her. And she will be buried at the Belmont Cemetery. We hope to start the service at 1 o'clock promptly. And I take the opportunity to express again my deepest condolences to all of Nan's family. She would be dearly missed from St. Elizabeth. She was one of those persons who is one of the pillars of the church. I say is because I still can't speak of her properly in the past tense. Anything that was to be done, you could rely on Nan. Any function the church was having, preparations and so on, Nan was there. But she has gone to a place of rest, a place to which we all have to go sooner or later. Let me, on a more cheerful note, send out my belated congratulations to Mr. Patrick Bascom and his wife Moline. They got married on the last day of the year, All Year's Day. Former Moline Charles, they tied the knot at Mount Sinai Spiritual Baptist Church at Korea. And I understand that Bishop Brown did a wonderful job. I wasn't able to make it because I was not feeling well that day, even though I was invited to the wedding. But I send my best to Patrick and Moline, and hope you all would have a long and happy marriage. Excuse me. Let me say thank you on behalf of St. Elizabeth Cathedral to Teacher Brian Turton and the members of Mount Sinai Spiritual Baptist Church, Largo Heights. They visited us yesterday, Sunday, and Teacher Turton was in his usual brilliant form. He delivered the message, and those of us who are accustomed to him were thrilled. This brother is especially talented, he's especially gifted in my humble opinion. And I always enjoy listening to him preach, whether on Radio 705, and his church frequently is on the air, or hearing him live. Brother Turton, you keep it up. His daytime job is as a security guard at the Prime Minister's complex in Kingstown. Now, there is one matter that I am looking forward to with great interest, and that is the swearing in on Friday of President-elect Donald Trump as the new ingoing President of the United States of America. The commentators and political pundits in the United States and indeed around the world are all very puzzled. They don't know what to make of Mr. Trump. Because he is certainly an unorthodox political figure. He claims not to be a politician. He rose to prominence among circumstances where it was not considered possible for him to have won the nomination of his party, but he did win. And then when he won that nomination, many people said it's not possible for him to win the general election and become president. Well, he did win, albeit that Mrs. Clinton got more popular votes than he did. But as I've explained to you before, and as you should know by now, in America, you don't elect presidents by the popular votes count. You elect them by the electoral college votes, which I've explained time and again. So I wouldn't take time to go through that again. Suffice it to say that the White House is going to be occupied for the next 4 years by a man that very few people are able to predict. In fact, nobody can predict what Mr. Trump would say. And hence, they have difficulty predicting what he would do as president. Of course, the Democrats are breathing fire. Many of them are now saying they're not going to attend the inauguration, and that will be unprecedented in recent American political history, because they said that his election was unduly influenced by Russian shenanigans, hacking of emails, and so on and so on. So we are in for some troubling times. We in the Caribbean ought to take the pragmatic approach. We ought to accept the fact that a new president is going into the White House, and we have a duty to our people to try and arrange the best deals we can for the Caribbean. Mr. Trump is a man who, I said since last year when he announced he was going to run, I said he would be the only American president I know who goes to, if he won the election, I said that at the time, who knows St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because remember that a few years ago, we had there was a Trump golf tournament in Canouan, and his name was associated with that. So at least he knows about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we in the Caribbean shouldn't get ourselves embroiled in the disputes in the American political system. We should simply try to make the best we can of our relationship with the new president and his cabinet. Not for us to take sides and to say that we are, siding with the Democrats because we don't like Trump and so on. Well, we have to face facts. We live in a hostile world, and he is going to be the president. We have to deal with him whether we like him or not, whether we like his policies or not. So let us make the best of it. And the Caribbean presidents, prime ministers, and presidents should quickly get to know him and the members of his cabinet and see what arrangements can be made in our own economic interests in the Caribbean. Probably have more to say about Mr. Trump. Finally, let me welcome very heartily to St. Vincent and the Grenadines a temporary High Court judge who will be beginning to sit tomorrow morning for the next 2.5 months in place of Justice Cottle, who I believe has gone on leave. The announcement didn't explain. The announcement on all lawyers saw on their email, they got a message that Justice Sir Claire Roberts of Antigua will be coming to take over Justice Cottle's cases for the rest of January, the whole of February, and the whole of March. Justice Sir Claire Roberts, I should give him his full title, will be serving in St. Vincent Grenadines for the first time, and we of the bar warmly welcome him, albeit for a short stint, and we at the bar would pledge our strongest cooperation to him. After all, he is an OECS man, so that he knows the region. All right, let us get into the topic for the evening. Consider making a will. And I will tell you what prompted this topic. Last Friday afternoon, I went to a bank, and as I was standing in line waiting to do my business, a lady turned around who was at the counter dealing with the teller, and she said to me, "Mr. Campbell, I want to thank you very much, you are the reason why I'm here." So I said, "How come?" She said, "Well, the gentleman I was living with, he died a few days ago. He hasn't even buried yet," is what she was telling me. "And thanks to you, he listened to you on your program, and he made a will and gave me my justice. Because if he didn't do that, his family already are lining up to deny me what is rightfully mine, and we have lived together for so many years, over 20 years, and he made a will, so I'm getting my justice." And I felt very happy to know that at least one person had benefited from advice I had tendered on this program. And it occurred to me that I probably should reinforce the point. Consider making a will. There is a myth common among people that if you make a will, you will die soon after. Far from it. In fact, most people of my acquaintance who make wills seem to live very long after having made the will. But I will take time out to explain to you that a will is a document, a piece of paper, which a person of age, that is over the age of 18, signs to make arrangements for his or her worldly goods and property and money when he or she dies. Because after all, when we die, we cannot take anything with us. No matter how nice a house you have, or no matter how nice the vehicles you have, and no matter how much money you have in the bank, and so on, when you die, you have to leave it all behind. And if you do not decide during your lifetime who you are going to leave to benefit from your estate. Estate means all the property you have, all the things you have. Estate doesn't really mean a large piece of land like the old time, Walabo Estate and North Union Estate and so on. Estate in law is used in the biblical sense. You remember the hymn, "For Christ hath regarded my lowly estate." Estate really means all you have, even if it does not consist of any land at all. Suppose all you have is a bank account. When you die, that is your estate. If you have land, that's your estate, whether the land has buildings or not. Anything you leave back. If you die leaving an insurance policy, and that is all that you have left, that is your estate. So when we say estate in law, we really mean all the worldly goods and assets that a person owns at the time when that person dies. Now, we all have to die unless Christ comes sooner. What we don't know in most cases is when we will die or how we are going to die. But die we must. And it is wise, if we have worldly possessions, it is wise for us to make arrangements for the disposal of those possessions to whomsoever we wish to benefit when we die. It's not a question of if we would die. I'm talking about dying. Yesterday, Sunday, the 15th, was a very special day for me because it was one day after the first anniversary of my escape from death. Remember, I had my heart surgery in Philadelphia on the 13th of January 2014. And on the next day, the 14th of January, I went into cardiac arrest twice and was practically dead for a few minutes in both times. Or the good Lord revived me, for which I'm extremely thankful, and has given me at least 3 more years. So I reflected last weekend very much on the goodness of God as far as I am concerned. So we all will die. And for those who have anything to leave when we die, the question arises, who would get it? Now, there might be cases where we hardly have anything to leave, so we hardly have anything to bother about. Well, that is a fact of life. Some people again say, oh, look, I don't care when I'm dead, when I'm dead, let them scramble. I mean, I'm not going to go through the problem, the hassle of making a will and so on. What happened, happened. But for most people, it would be a wise thing to do to make your own decision as to who should get your estate when you die. So, if you want to leave it to chance or it doesn't bother you, fine. But if it is important for you to make sure that some people benefit from your estate, the only way you can do that is by making a will in which you decide who should get what of your estate. Because if you don't make that decision, the law has that decision already made for you. You see, if you die without having made a will, you would have died intestate. If you make a will, then you die testate. Now, the law has very clear rules as to what should happen to your estate if you die without having made a will. I've gone through that in several programs in the past, and I wouldn't take time to go through it again. Suffice it to say, in a nutshell, that if you die leaving a spouse and children without making a will, your spouse gets 1/3 of your estate and your children share up the other 2/3 between them. But please bear in mind that when I speak about your estate, I am referring only to that which you own. You can only leave what is yours. So if a property belongs to you and somebody else, you can only leave your share in that property. You can't leave the whole property because the whole property does not belong to you. Now, there are many cases, and I've told you this before, time and time again, where a title deed to property is in the name of one person. But that does not mean that that person alone owns the property. It all depends on the circumstances by which the person got the property. And for married couples, and to some extent even if couples are not married, where the title deed is in one name, the other partner to either the common law relationship or the marriage may well be entitled to a share in the property, even though the title deed is in your name alone. The law would say the other person has an interest in the property. Interest in that sense doesn't mean that the other person is interested in the property. Interest is used as an alternative word to the word share. So if you go to court and you hear the lawyers and the judges talking about X person having an interest in property, it doesn't mean that, oh, that person liked the property, it's nice and they're interested in it. No, it means a person has a share in the property. So therefore, when you are going to make a will, if you decide to make a will, you have to identify what belongs to you. And you can leave what is yours to whomsoever you want under our laws. You see, in some countries, the law restricts you. You can't do what you please with your own property by a will. The law compels you to make adequate provision for certain family members, whether you like it or not. Not so in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So if you've been living in Trinidad and Tobago or Jamaica or Barbados or England or Canada, those countries have laws which say if you're going to make a will, you have a duty by law to leave something for so and so and so and so if they are related to you in a certain way. But in the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you don't have any duty to leave anything that belongs to you to any particular person. Now you have to distinguish that from somebody having a share. I'm not speaking about property that you own jointly with somebody else. If property is yours, be it money in the bank, vehicles, insurance policy, animals, land, crops, insurance policies, and whatever else, I said that before. Once it's yours in our laws, you are free to leave it to whoever you want to. I should say, for proper English, to whomsoever you wish. Because we have what is called freedom of testamentary disposition. That is, you are free to give away to anybody at all, stranger or family, friend, what is yours. But if you don't make a will, the law says your possessions, your estate, belong to your spouse and children. If you have no spouse but you have children, your children will get it. If you have no children, then your parents and grandparents, brothers and sisters, there are specific rules laid down as to who should get your estate if you don't decide yourself who you're going to leave it for. Now, making a will is simple. Simple. Contact a lawyer. Even if a person is bedridden, the lawyer can go to the home of the person and take instructions, that is, find out from the person what they want, and the lawyer will have the will done, go back there with an official attester and have it signed up and so on. And it is not expensive at all. Most simple wills will cost you less than $700 to make. It's only complicated wills that get expensive. But wills save a lot of hassle, a lot of expense. So consider making a will if you haven't done so, unless you don't care what happens to your property. I will continue with other aspects of this on another occasion, because I want to make sure you understand that when the law says your children would inherit, it doesn't matter if they've been good to you or if they have neglected you. Once they can prove they are children, they would be entitled equally. Amen? All right. So that is all from this program of the Law and You, program number 852. Once again, let me remind you of Nan's funeral on Sunday, 22nd, St. Elizabeth, Belmont at 1 o'clock. Until next Monday, Divi, Deo Volenti, if the Lord is willing, may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.